My name is Kathleen Toledo. I'm Navajo. I grew up living in Ganado, Arizona. We lived on the reservation. I also grew up in Torreon, New Mexico. We lived on the reservation there as well. That's where I grew up. I went to deaf schools, first in New Mexico School for the Deaf, which is in Santa Fe, from the ages of 5 to 8. Later, my family moved to Arizona, and I went to the Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind in Tucson. My parents worked here in Phoenix during that time. Sometimes my mom and dad would travel back and forth between Ganado, Arizona, where my mom was living, and where my father was living, which was in Torreon, New Mexico. At the time, he was worried for his mother and father, so he would go to check and ensure that they were okay. We lived in Santa Fe for about 9 months during the school year so that I could be around other deaf people. During that time, I saw other Navajo individuals. I was very assertive in getting to know others who were like me. I learned a lot about the Navajo people. Many of them lived in homes called hogans. Hogans do not have water or electricity. That was something that they were all used to, but it was fascinating for me. But it was very similar to the way that my father grew up. When we moved so that I could go to ASDB, I met some very different individuals. I met people from the Apache tribe, Mojave, Papago, Yaqui, Sacaton. What are the others? Pima. And getting to know them, I realized that we were very, very different. Their homes were very different. But I still was able to find other Navajo children that I could relate to, and they also had homes that were called hogans, again, with no water or electricity. And I felt like we had a lot in common. I felt comfortable around them, but I wasn't familiar with the traditions of other tribes. The only ones that I really knew were the Navajo. I grew up both in Torreon, New Mexico, and Ganado, Arizona. I would attend squaw dancing, and that was intended to bless the spirit and keep evil spirits away. We would also pray for health, and we would dance with fire. We would have a large fire, just one large fire, and the squaws would dance around the fire in a line. It was very beautiful. We would wear Navajo traditional clothing, similar to what I have now. My earrings and my hairpiece. Mine was different at the time, but this is the type that I use now. During those dances, I would always ask my mom if I could, and she would allow me to dance with the other squaws. I loved that experience. We would dance all night until 7 o'clock in the morning. Then we would have breakfast. We would usually have like burritos with potato and spam and jalapenos. There'd also be coffee, and we would have fry bread too. We would eat our breakfast and enjoy that. Then when that was over, it would be time for baskets. Inside of the baskets, I liked to see popcorn balls and flowers, salsa, baking powder, soda, and usually an apron too. We would also include pot holders and a lot of very good food in the basket as well. People would throw the goodies out, and I would help my mom collect some of them for my home. We'd get oranges and apples, and I mostly would try to get the oranges and apples rather than the other things. My mom would never say anything, but that's just what I preferred. It was really fun. I enjoyed that a lot. Then, somewhere around 9 or 10 o'clock, we would all go home, and we would just pass out and sleep for the rest of the day. That's all. Terry Vision is the one who first asked me if I wanted to join the IDC. I'm not sure what it stands for. I think it's Intertribal Deaf Council. I thought that might be a good idea, so I became a member and I paid my dues. And we went to Niagara Falls in New York. Wow, that was really amazing. We wore some of our Navajo clothing, our traditional garb, and there were some other individuals from different tribes in their traditional clothing as well. I learned a lot from that experience. I had the opportunity to talk to different people from New York, and they had very different food and other traditions. So during the IDC, I learned a lot, and I also heard about the sacred circle. This is our sign for sacred circle. At the time, I didn't join it, and I haven't yet, but I do want to in the future. I'm curious about what that looks like. About 6 years ago, my friend named Paul Bentley, who unfortunately passed away about 5 years ago, started a new tradition. He hosted the first Four Corners event for deaf Native Americans. This is my sign for Native American. I don't use this other two-fingered sign or others that I've seen before. This is the sign that I'm used to and what's been used primarily here in Arizona. On the East Coast, I did ask other people their signs and just ask that they respect my sign choice because this is how we sign Native NASL with an F handshape, and they did choose to respect that, so I'm grateful for their respect. So it was a really great experience when Paul invited us all to go camping in Pine Top, Arizona. The camping trip occurred near the home of Darlene Lazarlier, and we set up tents all around the property, and I gave a little presentation. I told the people there about my care for their lives and how it's not easy to lose someone. It's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous. I tried to talk to these individuals, and I wanted to be a good role model for them. And that's something that I needed them to see, that I care for myself and they should care for themselves as well. We did have fun. We ate breakfast together in the morning, burritos and Spam potatoes like normal. We had some coffee and dessert, probably cookies, I think. And then we did a little shopping and sightseeing. There's an Apache store nearby, so it was nice to go there and get an idea of what their jewelry, their shoes, and their clothing look like. It's all very different. They have these shawls that are different than what we would wear, very similar to the Navajo style, but different still. And we were able to smile at new friends and greet people. Even the hearing people in the area were very friendly. Around noon, we had beans and we had some meat too with fry bread. And then in the afternoon, we went fishing. There's a lake somewhere on the reservation that Darlene led us to so that we could go fishing. When that was done, we went back for the evening, and unfortunately we didn't have any fish, but instead we decided to eat some different food. We cooked together, and that was an enjoyable time. And then we played some games and talked and had fun, shared some funny stories with each other. We just enjoyed the evening. And then, of course, we went to sleep, and the next morning we did it all again for 3 days. It was the same kind of thing for 3 days, and that was about it. It was very fun. I decided that I would join a couple different groups. One is the Four Corners Deaf Native Americans, which is FCDNA, and the WMADNA. I am actually an admin for those pages. It's nice for people to be able to connect and look around and get an idea of their Navajo history with the FCDNA page. Those meetings are primarily hosted in Farmington, New Mexico. So that'll give you an idea. And then you can also go to the WADNA page, which is primarily for Apache individuals, so they can get some information about their people. There's storytelling on the page, and it gets many likes, which is a pleasant surprise.